You're on Long Final, Ireland's aviation podcast from Squawk 7000.
Jeez, it was a moment of madness, really. Got the licence, helped a friend of mine build an aircraft years ago, and then got in my head, I'd like my own aircraft.
That's Mark Brearton, pilot and aircraft builder.
So went online, did a little bit of hunting, what's available. Got in contact with a guy that had a certain type of aircraft. Got a price off him. 3 weeks later, it arrived in boxes. And then I realised, am I mad? When I opened up these boxes, I said, am I mad? He says, what am I doing? But the best move ever. Best move ever.
So what do you like with the piece of IKEA furniture?
Desperate. Desperate. I'd pay the guy to come down and do the IKEA furniture. But let me build an airplane any day.
How many have you done?
Ooh, to date, probably about seven, and then rebuilt one, and then I give a lot of guys a hand building their own aircraft as well. Because it's a great vote of confidence when you have a guy that has built them before. He mightn't necessarily know what he's doing, but it's in their head, he knows what he's doing, so it's good for them.
Okay, well, let's explore it a little bit further, because there might be somebody listening to us who thinks, I'd like to have a go at that too. I've always had the idea. But I imagine there's a couple of hurdles you've got to get over first. Bring us right back to the very beginning. You obviously need a place to do it.
You do. Not everybody can go and buy an aircraft and build it. There's a process you have to go through. So you have to be affiliated with an organisation. So in Ireland you have the likes of National Microlight Association or ILAS or someone like that. And basically what they do, they oversee the build of the aircraft. So you can't just willy-nilly buy an aircraft, build it and expect to fly it. There's a certain process you have to go through. So the first process, you will send an email to, just say, in our case, it's the National Microlight Association, and you say, introduce yourself as Johnny McGee. I'm interested in buying this particular type of aircraft and I want to home build it. Is it okay with yourselves? And what we do there first as a National Microlight Association, you have to make sure the aircraft is approved in the country before you build. Because some guys buy in these home build kits and all that from the States and they will never fly in this country because they're not allowed. They have to be approved in this country, and that's vital, and a lot of people are not aware of this. So they'll inform us of the type of aircraft, just say in this case it's a Ventura, and they'll apply, say, I want to build a Ventura. So what will happen then is we will have a technical committee meeting and we will send an inspector down to his premises, make sure he has the shed, he has the tools, and you're kind of doing an unofficial interview with him, because you'll get to see, does this guy know what he's doing? Is he technically minded? So you'll know straight away yes or no whether he can build or not, and then you just go from there. So that'll be the first stage. He'll apply for his kit, the kit will arrive, we'll go down then with him when the kit's opened up, check it, make sure he knows what he's doing, and just run through the process with him. So then he'll start building, and he'll build in different sections or different stages. So basically we'll have, from an inspector point of view, from the Microlight Association, you have what's called stage inspections. So just say for Big Iron, you were to buy this aircraft.
Yeah, we should say we're standing beside an ICP
ICP Ventura, yeah. So just say you were to buy this kit. The kit will arrive in your house in numerous boxes. And the first thing you will build will be, say, the back fuselage. So you will start assembling the back fuselage, take out all the parts, check them, paint them, prime them, whatever you need to do, assemble the fuselage, but you will not cover it. So an inspector will come down, an NMAI inspector, who generally is trained or has some sort of background in aviation, building and stuff like that. He will come down and he will check the fuselage, every component, to make sure it's safe to cover before you close it over. Because remember, once a lot of these aircraft, once it's closed over, it's very hard to see little bits and pieces.
So you can't see the botch job?
No, there'll be no botch jobs. If there's a botch job, you're doing it wrong. So an inspector will, and under no excuses, it has to be exactly as the manual says. No excuses. So that's why the inspector is there. Plus the inspector will see something wrong that you won't see wrong. And a second pair of eyes, in my case, I'd be probably the most experienced guy on the ICP Savannahs and Venturas here in Ireland, but it's always great to have another inspector come in and look, because he will see something I don't see. So the second set of eyes is always really, really good.
Okay, we'll go back to the build process in a minute, but I'm just thinking, you've actually been over to the factory. Does that give you a particular advantage then? Because we're looking at an airplane, you can buy it either from the factory or you can buy it self-build. What's the advantage of one over the other?
It's all to do with licensing, believe it or not. In the Microlight category, you can buy, a Microlight category is up to 450 kgs, which we hope will change to 600 kg in the not too near future. But where you're limited with that is you can buy factory built 450 kg or you can build it yourself. But if I want to buy the same aircraft 600 kg and it's factory built, it has to be a EASA approved. So you're getting into a whole different territory, higher costs, higher maintenance fees. You cannot do any of the maintenance on the aircraft yourself. But if you want to buy a 600 kg home build, you can build it at home in your own shed, and it's basically it's just a difference of licensing to suit different guys, whether they want to fly factory built or home built for 400 kg or 600 kg.
And the home builds are under kind of an experimental category, would that be right?
Experimental is not used in Ireland. They don't like the word experimental. So it's basically, it's just home built. It's home built aircraft. And you can also buy, you see, from the factory, you don't have to buy a full flat pack home build. You can buy a fast build kit. So I can go to the factory and I can order, just say yourself wants to build a Savannah or a Zen Air or whatever aircraft you want. You can buy a fast build kit. So basically, it'll come out of the factory and it'll have the fuselage assembled. It might have the wings assembled. Now, when I say assembled, they're not painted. They're only assembled. So they will come prepared, ready for paint and ready for on, and it takes a lot of your build out, and it still falls under the golden rule when it comes to home building, is 51% rule. So if you build, to qualify as a home built aircraft, you have to build 51% of that aircraft. So in real terms, the building of the fuselage and wings is a very, very, very small percentage of building an aircraft. Where the time goes in is painting, wiring, assembling, engine assembly, propeller assembly. Hours and hours and hours of building and tweaking go into it. We do have a saying when we're building an aircraft, the first 2 months you come in, you build your aircraft, you say, I'll have this flying in 3 months, because the wings are assembled, the fuselage assembled, and next thing you're 4 weeks under the dash and it looks like there's nothing done, and you start to get deflated, and that's when guys start to run out of interest in the machine.
I was going to say that to you, like, how many unfinished kits are there in the world?
Oh, loads. I couldn't answer that question, but there's quite a few unfinished kits.
What happens?
Just to put simply, guys lose their mojo. I think very, very important, and I've seen from past experience, when it comes to building kits, have a few guys building the kit with you. It's supposed to be fun. You have a project to do, right? You have a goal, you have a deadline, but it's supposed to be fun. And when you're working away for hours and hours on your own, you can lose interest very, very, very quick. So we have a couple of guys building. We've one guy in Mayo, myself and Pat, another friend of mine here. We do take it on us to go up and we give him a hand, just to push him on, because the kit's going very slow and he's losing his interest. So we go and we push it on. We go up and three of us there working for a day equals maybe a month of his work, and it gives him the drive to get it done. A lot of it too then, a lot of the older kits would have been, say, bought off plans. So you have to buy all the raw material yourself, you have to buy all the timber, you have to buy everything, cut it and drill it. The older type kits, the vast majority, I won't say the vast majority, but maybe 50% of them would never be seen. Whereas with the newer kits, all the kits come fully drilled, you don't have to drill any holes, so it's like a big Meccano set, so you will finish it quicker. Plus, most kits come now with everything included, so you're not spending days driving from here to there trying to get little bits and pieces that are impossible to get.
What sort of investment then is somebody thinking about if they're going to bring this up at home and say, do you know what, I think I'd like to spend a few quid in building an airplane? How do you start that conversation, and how much are we talking about to the credit union?
There's another golden rule when it comes to kits: buy the kit and then just ask for forgiveness.
You've done that 7 times.
Yeah. My first kit, I used to go into the manager of the credit union, and he used to turn around and he used to say to me, geez, that kitchen's flying lovely. No, but generally, listen, there's different budgets, different airplanes, different kits. It's like you can go with Savannahs, SkyRangers, they're all in around basic kit, €25,000. Sounds like a lot of money, but for that €25,000, especially in the case of the Savannah, you get everything you need firewall back, I should say. So you have the full aircraft, fuselage, wings, wheels, instruments in the panel, excluding your radio and transponder, naturally enough, because everyone has a preference to what make they want to use for that. And then what you will have to add to it, you'll have to add a propeller or an engine. It'd be a new engine or second-hand engine. So you can get away quite lightly. Now, there is cheaper kits out there. You can buy X-Airs and you can buy stuff like that as well, but generally your kits, you're looking in around the 20,000, say, just to kick up and going, and then add your engine propeller. As
against buying it from the factory?
Against buying it from the factory, you'd be saving. See, various aircraft, different price, but say just generally, Savannah sitting on the ground, ready to fly, excluding radios and transponders, you're looking at about 70,000. You know what I mean? And
of course there's the cost of your labour then is the difference in between, but you're saying that should be fun, it should be passion, it should be something you enjoy.
That's it. Yeah, no, so you're paying, when you're buying factory built aircraft, you're paying for labour, and you're paying, like, the biggest part of any of these aircraft is the painting. The painting, yeah, priming and painting takes more time than building any fuselage. I'll give you an example. See this wing here? I would safely lay that wing out flat pack on the ground on a big table, and I would have it ready to cover within 5 hours. It's really, really simple because there's very little in it. You have main spars, you have ribs, you cleat them all together, and then you check everything, and then you're ready for riveting. At this stage, you have all the parts primed beforehand, and then you just come along, put the outer skin on, cleat it all, and then we have an air riveter go along, and it pulls all the rivets at the same force, so it's bang, 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 bang. Literally a couple of hours does it. So there's no people look at a wing in aircraft and say, "Geez, it must have taken weeks to build that." It's actually the quickest and easiest thing to build. The wing on the SkyRanger over there, literally 2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours to do the wing in a SkyRanger, because it's a fabric that pulls up over the frame like a sock. So you just pull it, open it up, put in your tensioners, it pulls the wing tight, job done. There's very little to it. Allow maybe another 2 hours before that prepping the framework and underneath, you know what I mean? But it's very, very simple. As you can see yourself, we're standing beside the SkyRanger now. Totally different wing than the Savannah. It's a fabric covered wing, but very, very easy, very quick to assemble. And the same story, we trial fit the wings, we're taking them on and off, you'd have the wings off in literally 5 minutes. There's no major issue to take the wings off. People think it's big, complicated stuff. They're designed to be taken apart. They have to be designed to take apart.
Okay, let's go back to the build process. You've got the kit, it's arrived, you're in your shed, and a bit like, I'm thinking back to the last time I made an Airfix kit and taking all the bits out and having a look at them.
It's the same.
Do you need a discipline, a work plan, a work process?
You do. Most aircraft will come with a really, really complex build manual, and it'll be stage by stage. And the one that comes from ICP that has for the Savannahs and Venturas is very detailed. It'll show you an illustrated diagram of all the parts, and then it'll show you another illustrated diagram of how they're assembled, and a listing, an index then showing the listing. And each part in the ICP kit is unique because it has a serial number, and that's indexed in the manual as well. So you know that exact serial number is that, because in every kit you can get 10 or 11 parts that look exactly the same. But there could be little holes, there could be 2 or 3 mil difference, and you don't know, is that for the left side, is that for the right side? But in fairness, ICP, there's a little serial number, so you see exactly. So basically, you lay them out flat on the table, you'll give them a wipe down, degrease them, and then you'll prime them. And then you'll wait for them to dry, and then you'll go assembling. And the assembling actually comes together very, very quick. You'll spend more time priming and painting than assembling. But you'll assemble certain parts, you'll cleat them all together. And a cleat is basically, it's just a device that holds all the pieces together before you put rivets in. Because when you put a rivet in, it's fixed. So you cleat it all together, make sure it's all right, make sure it's all aligned, and then you start riveting.
That's one you built.
That's one of ours going out there now with a student and instructor in it. That's Savannah.
What do you remember of that build?
Wondering were we mad? Yeah, we built that. That's actually a 600 kg machine. This is where we go back to before. So we have for training in this country at 600 kg, and we're actually the first country in the world to allow home builds for training. Where this came from was basically, if the rules state you have to have factory built aircraft for flight training, but for factory built aircraft we were using the Savannah, right? In this case we haven't the Ventura in the training process yet. For the Savannahs, the rules were you had to use factory built. So to be factory built, as I said, you had to be under 450 kg. But realistically, if you put the Savannah there, myself and yourself sitting in it on full of fuel, you're over 450 kg. So we made this case at IEA and they totally agreed with us. They were actually, in fairness to them now, they were on par with this, to see where we're coming from. And we showed them that we can have 2 aircraft side by side, one registered at 600 kg and one at 450. So where was the sense in limiting it to 450 kg for training? And realistically, there's no difference in the home built and the factory built aircraft. Structurally, they're exactly the same.
I was going to say that because for people who are listening to us and maybe can't see, you might have a vision in your head of home built being almost a little bit hokey looking. The interior of this airplane beside us is stunning. This is really smart. It's got really high tech in it.
You see, you have to remember, let it be factory built or home built, it's the very same kit. So the parts are laid out in the factory the very same way on a table and assembled. So you're using the very same manufactured parts. It just means me and you and a couple of our friends are putting together rather than 5 or 6 people in the factory. And I have this saying, I reckon there's more detail and attention put into a home-built aircraft because you're building it yourself. It's your kids that are going to be flying in it, and you're going to do it right. Yeah. Whereas in a factory, you have the same people building the aircraft are there, just doing a job.
We all remember the Friday car, or the Monday car.
Exactly, exactly. Or the one on a Wednesday, please. You'll always put more detail and time into your own aircraft. And as you see yourself, you sit them side by side. There's a prime example. There's 2 Savannahs there. The newer one is 450 kg factory built. The other one is home built. What's the difference? Different colour. There's no difference in the aircraft.
But obviously operating them differently when it comes to it.
Yep.
Let's go back then to the stage. Maybe we've got to, I don't know, are there markers? As you say, the fuselage, the wings go on, the engine goes on, the avionics are in. What's the next big hurdle then at that stage? The final inspection, what's that like?
Yeah, the final inspection is a long process. So basically what will happen is you'll assemble the whole aircraft, and then your inspector will come down and sign it off. So at that stage the IA or the NMAI will come down and they will give it a final permit. At this stage now you'll have to be applying for the Irish Aviation Authority for your reg and all the usual. So you get a registration cert sent out to you, and then at that stage the NMAI or ILAS or whoever you're dealing with will come down and do a final inspection on the aircraft, and then it'll have to go through its test flying process. So that's...
Hang on a second, right. You've built this airplane. It's been in your shed for, maybe 2 years if you're... And the first flight, what's that like?
The check flights can be, quite nervy. Quite nervy. Generally this day and age, they're solid aircraft, they're a good aircraft. And if the aircraft is built exactly as spec, you should have no major issues. And a lot of the aircraft companies, give you all the deflections and everything for all the control surfaces. And with ICP, they actually give you jigs. So there's a jig literally fits onto the aircraft over the ailerons, and you move it up and down, adjust it to suit that. So you know it's exactly as the manufacturer. So you have a good idea, it's 100%. But still, you're quite nervy. I've check flown quite a few airplanes here now and new builds. And I love doing it, don't get me wrong, but I have good faith in the builders. I won't check fly an aircraft I don't know, that I haven't. If someone rang me, I've built an aircraft, will you check fly them? There, no way. You have to have faith in that person. But there's a lot, before you check flight, I'll do a lot of ground running, and at that stage the owner will have run the engine in for a couple of hours, because if you have a new engine, you can't trust a new engine. Cable could break or something could go wrong. But you just get in and always expect something to go wrong. I'm always expecting a fuel lock, air bubbles, or there's something in the fuel system, or a cable to break or something. If you're expecting it and it happens, you deal with it. But 9 times out of 10, very, very few issues. Might get a little bit of rough running, carburetors not exactly synchronized because you run them on the ground. When you go to full power, it's different. It's minor things, but at that stage, the aircraft is well flyable anyway. So, but your heart is always racing, though. It's like, whoa! It's like that first date.
Are you a perfectionist?
No, not by any means.
I've heard otherwise.
No. I think if you're a perfectionist, especially when it comes to aircraft terms, you can never stop fiddling with an aircraft, and you can do too much. And years ago, we used to be a saying with a lot of old 2-stroke engines that they all stopped because everyone was trying to get them to run better and better and better. I'm a perfectionist in as far as if the manual says do this, do this. I know no better than the manual. If the manufacturer says you have to do this, they're the experts. Do it exactly as they say. So I'd say no.
What is it like when you are flying an airplane that you've built? Do you have an ear to every rattle and every sound in it, or?
Oh, definitely, yeah. When you've built an aircraft,
we'll walk in. It's getting cold out there.
When you build an aircraft, you know it inside out. That is the beauty with home building. So if we're up flying and there's a slight noise or vibration, 9 times out of 10 I'd say I know what that is. It's not a big problem, continue on, we'll fix it when we land. Whereas people that haven't experienced that panic.
Yeah.
It's a great way to be, and people will learn these things over time if they haven't home built, but it takes a while, But everything is easy to fix.
Talk a little bit more about how you found yourself even doing this. Do you remember your first flight? Is it on here?
My first flight, yes. My first flight years ago. Would you believe I was in Australia, and a friend of mine was into flying, and I always hung around Irish Parachute Club as a young lad for years. And I was in Australia, and a mate of mine rang me and said, "Hey bud, how are you getting on? Do you fancy coming home and learning how to fly?" I said, gave it 3 seconds thought. Yeah, why not? And then he says, right, he says, if you come home, we'll go to France in 2 weeks' time. And we went over to France and started training over there. And my first training flight was in France. And literally, home from Australia, how are you, ma, how are you, da? Right, going to France, good luck. That was it. Great experience. Just fell in love with it.
Why do you love it?
Why do I love it? I can't answer that question. I just do. I find I just get into the airplane, I switch off. I just get into airplane mode and just fly, and I love it. I like the great bunch of friends around it. Like, you know, people from all over the country, and even UK and France, and you get to know everyone. And when you arrive over to their place, they treat you like their family members. It's just a great camaraderie. It's great, just great social scene as well as the flying. But I just love the flying.
Mark, 7 built. What's next?
7 sold. No. What is next is a good question. Next for us is in relation to the Savannahs and that, we're hoping to push the UK market. That's going to take quite a lot of work. And we're also just hoping to push the aircraft. We've 2 more kits arriving in February. So we'll actually bring you down when we start, and we'll actually show you the build process, some of them, please God. Next, geez, I don't know.
It sounds almost enough, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's quite time consuming. Like, this is all voluntary. It's all like, this is not our 9-to-5 job. We have jobs in real life and family and stuff to deal with as well. So it does take up quite a lot of time on our behalf anyway. And especially bringing in the aircraft and building and selling. And
so when these 2 kits arrive in, will you be missing off the radar for a while? And how much time does it take from your week when you're building?
If I was building one for myself, I'd be inclined to get it stuck in, and I try and get it built within 3 months. Now, I have the experience to do that. I'm self-employed. I'm lucky I can do that as well. I have a good bunch of friends who will come in and dig out. Generally, when we're building most evenings, I have a little warehouse we go into and we build the aircraft in them, and we can build them. Some nights you could have 6 guys in helping build them. And I try and run workshops for future buyers as well, so they're actually in building the aircraft with me. So I'll give you an example. One of these kits that's arriving in a couple of weeks' time, the owner has now helped build 3 aircraft with me, and in the last aircraft he's done quite a lot on his own with it. So when his own aircraft kit comes, he has the advantage. He will be able to fly through certain sections because he has the workshop done. I call them workshops, they're unofficial training. And what I do every now and then is I try and bring 5 or 6 guys over to the factory and to see the whole process of building and the video it. And what we do is we go over to the factory, and the factory are very accommodating. They will say how 2 or 3 of their workers with us, and we will build certain parts of the aircraft and they will oversee it, and then they will get their quality team come down and check it and sign it off, and then the guys know then it's done to the same standard as they have, which is great. Plus they can see every part of the factory, how the parts are made, where they come in raw material, come in sheets of aluminium, and how each part is made. Great, it's great, and it's great vision for them to see the strength of the aircraft as well, plus to get to see the factory test flying them. And that really illustrates just how strong the aircraft are, because the test flying day through and the manoeuvre they put them through, we will never ever meet the loads they're putting them. So that's a great selling point.
Mark, we should mention that we're here in Limetree, and there's a whole lot of fun flying going on.
Yes, well, that's the nature of Limetree. It's supposed to be fun fly, club atmosphere, and that's what makes it so successful. Even though we've the flying schools up here, the golden rule is it's a club. Everyone's welcome in, everyone's brought flying. There's no airs and graces, who you are, what job you are. You can walk in here in a pair of John Deere overalls and a pair of wellies and go flying, no one cares. Yeah. You could be a doctor, it's all the one. Everyone's flying and having fun. And whether you're flying a machine that costs 30,000 or 300,000, it makes no difference. We're all flying, it's a club, it's good fun. And in fairness to Jerry Deegan, the owner of the club, he's a great promoter to aviation in Ireland. It's down to what we call grassroots flying. It's affordability flying. Like years ago, guys were flying in machines like the weight shifts over in the corner there, 2-stroke machines, flying in out short little grass strips. On a summer's day, you could go to a field, it could be 30 people lying out just watching, having the crack. And it's the same thing that's kind of carried on here. There's days we come in here, there could be 14 or 15 aircraft outside, lovely day, and no one flying, because we'll be all sitting around the table having a barbecue and having the laugh, telling lies and having fun.
And is there any old snobbery left from the older airplanes to these newer ones?
To be politically correct, no, but yes.
Who needs to be politically correct?
There is. No, listen, there would be, and it's it's kind of old school thinking, as I'd say it. You'd have a lot of guys that would be years ago looking, to see these machines coming in and say, oh, they're not proper airplanes and they're not this, and oh, sure, they're only microlights, you can't go anywhere in them. And then you'd see things start to change when we'd fly back into like Weston or somewhere, and they say, oh, where you have to come from in your little microlight, and then you turn around and say, oh, well, I'm just coming back from France. And they're there looking at you and said, oh, where did you go? I went to Sligo in their 172. And said, you went to France, that thing, you're mad. And says, no, they're well capable. You could fly across the UK, fly across France.
And more importantly, I built it myself.
And more importantly, I built it myself, exactly. And as we used to have a saying, one certain instructor in a well-established flying school, we used to have the crack, and I used to have to banter him. I'd often come in and land up, oh, where are you going with your little windbreaker? And I'd say, I'm going everywhere, but you're dead right. It's my little windbreaker. And he used to laugh at me and says, you're dead right. And that's where we say, it doesn't matter what you have, what you don't want, you're flying, you're having fun, you're a winner.
And a special thank you to Mark Brearton and everybody at Limetree for their hospitality and facilitating our socially distanced interview as part of this edition of Long Final. You can get more information on building your own from funflyaerosports.ie, or if it's about learning to fly, at funfly.ie. Don't forget too, you can get a full briefing on aviation news in Ireland by subscribing to squawk7000.ie.